Hello from nowhere, high atop the mystic mountain, in the fantastical flowery land of nowhere. This is a hibiscus. How beautiful this one is. Yes, it is. How beautiful. Some tiger lilies, guys. Got a lot of them going on. These already did their thing. They're going to start seeding soon. But yeah, I got some tiger lilies. We got some cone flowers in the back. Got some Christmas trees. Maybe some Christmas presents will appear beneath them one day. There's some beets. I have to water everything, but I have to go to the bathroom. Well, anyways, so guys, welcome to nowhere. If you're joining me here, please like and subscribe, ring the bell, whatever. So the phenomenon I cannot understand. I'll tell you guys something I've always wondered about for a long, long time. And I just cannot find an answer that makes sense. There are answers out there, but none that make sense. So I'll try to give y'all some pretty scenery to look at as I'm filming, but it is kind of hot out there. That right there, I told the folks who owned it that they have to the end of this month to get it out of my yard. If they do not cooperate, I'm going to start taking moves and actions to possess it. And then I'm going to sell it, basically to get it out of the yard. Because it's been months. They basically had, if you want to think about it, they've had at least a year to make arrangements. And every step of the way, they disrespected me. And they may claim, well, we weren't disrespecting you, were taking advantage of my patience. And that I bought the place from you, and you see all this garbage on the ground. They got some stuff. They pecked at it like birds. But, you know, you make a mess, you ought to clean it up in life, and that's fine. I'll clean it up. But the way I clean it up, if you don't like it, well, you had a chance, didn't you? You can take that stuff somewhere else. But I told them by the end of the month, that's the definite deadline to get this survival, prepping, LARPing mess out of my damn yard. Because that's all it is. If you don't know what LARPing means, I say it a lot, so if you're hanging out and you don't know what it means, I'm going to help you out. LARPing, live action role-playing. There you go. And you see these people who prep and mess, but you know when they're talking about it and stuff, you know that them people are not who you want in a survival situation. I'm going to tell you why. Because those people have a fantasy about how it's going to be. You don't want that. You want someone with a clear head who understands that a problem is still a problem and you solve a problem. A survival situation or not, if you need water, you go find water. You need food, you go find food. You do the things. You don't sit here. If you want to plan, great, but you don't need to plan. You don't need to make a fairy tale up and a fantasy as you're doing so. Okay, like I hate to tell y'all this, but nuclear war is not coming. Everybody building bomb shelters and bunkers. The really rich folks on this planet do stuff like that because when it gets popular, things get popular to them too, and they jump on the bandwagon in their own way. You know, and you hear, I've heard it in the news that they build bunkers and they've got Of course they do. That's their lifestyle. I don't, massive civil unrest, and you cling to life like magnets cling to each other. I imagine you would be pretty scared if all your life was based on material possession, accusation, and acquisition, and you stored up all your treasures on earth. You gotta lose them if something awful happens, so you take steps, you prepare. But the thing is, people, they dream and fantasize about things like nuclear war, like it's going to be a fun time. Listen to me very closely when I tell you this. If something like that were to happen, you wouldn't want to live in the aftermath anyway, so let the bomb vaporize you and you come back and maybe Earth is settled back down and you have a much more pleasant experience. You don't want to walk through some post-apocalyptic wasteland. You don't want to do that, because I promise you, all the people who do that and they're toting a Bible in one hand, if push comes to shove, they're gonna throw the Bible down and pick up the gun, and they're gonna do what human beings do when pushed. Okay, not all human beings are capable of that. Some of us have principles, and we try and guide the ones who don't to those principles so that they too can have life abundant. Sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, when it don't work, it's a lot like a cowboy trying to ride a rodeo bull. I mean, there's some skill to it, and the good ones can do it well, and they understand to move with the bull, and they understand those things on a muscle level, on a bodily level. And they're just there for the ride. But I digress. I come to this phenomenon. I'm not talking about that I got carried off. But I'm telling you something, this is what it is. Lately here, I'm seeing a lot of, I'm going to sum it up like this. I'm seeing a lot of different situations like what I'm about to describe. And I'm seeing it, and I've experienced it all my life personally, all throughout the years. Something about, all right, let me paint you a picture. Say you're on an airplane, a tight space, because this is the last video of one I've seen. You're in basically a tight space. You can't go anywhere. Someone stands up and they're dancing in the aisle, jumping up and down. They start smacking you in the back of the head. You wouldn't even pay this person no attention. But for whatever reason, that person starts smacking you in the back of the head. After about the third smack, you get up and you go to stop them from smacking you. And then all of a sudden, the airplane gets in front of you and stops you. And they're ignoring this person who is now smacking someone else in the head. And in fact, when that person has enough and they turn to stop them, they get in front of them. But this person's still dancing around the airplane, smacking folks in the head. This is the problem, is that why? Let's say that the people on the airplane that get between you, the abused and the abuser, let's say they're society and the people of it. Why are the people of society so hell-bent? And this is not just the only situation. Like I said, I've been through multiple situations like this. Why is society hell-bent on protecting abusers? So much so that they'll stop anyone who tries to confront or stand up or dare to defend themselves against said abuser. Why are people so hell-bent on the protection and proliferation and propagation of abusers? I get that person probably was not always abusive. Some people are born like that. Don't kid yourself. Some people are born to be natural saints. Well, some people are born to be natural sinners. You think I'm making it up? I'll tell you this. Who alone creates good and evil? God. He's the propagator of it all. You gotta pause and hear them birds. It's God chiming in, saying, preach it, brother, preach it. So look here. So my point is that why is it that when someone is abusing another person, and everyone is aware of it, and everyone's just watching that, the minute that abused person, beaten and bloody maybe, emotionally scarred, held in bondage by this person, and they go to snatch the key to those chains away and stop their abuse. I'm not talking about ending nobody's life. Don't hear that. What I'm saying is something like this. Someone popping you around and you pop them in the eye, and that's the end of it. That's the extent of what I'm talking about, because that's defending yourself as you neutralize somebody by popping them in the eye. People like to try to play this clown act where they dance around words. Defense is attack. It's not always a physical attack, but it's a reaction to someone attacking you. But in technicality, when you retaliate, which is what defending yourself is retaliation. You are acting back against them. You are attacking back. I watch these. Not everyone has this gift of seeing what people mean when they're talking, because people dance around words, right? They will take a simple sentence. You'll go to your boss one day, you'll say, all right, the workload has gotten 1,000 times greater than it has been, or whatever it may be. Can I have some more money? Can I have a raise? And that boss doesn't tell you no. Instead, they do this. They say, yes, you can have a raise. And then months go by, you haven't gotten your raise. Because the boss didn't technically lie. He's planning to give it to you. Just whenever that time comes, he'll give it to you, but not then. And so what you have to do is you have to understand that simple rule of how people talk. And it'll all fall in place as you practice it. And you can know what they mean when they're talking. And so what you would do in a situation like that is you iron out the details real quick. You say, well, look, the workload got bigger. Can I have a raise now of this much money? You put them in a corner then, because you've got a timeline and time frame. Got all the details right there. If you leave it open, they can tell you yes, but they can do it on their own accord, and you just keep on having to have this awkward, let me go bother my boss about money. Nobody will bother you about money. People trying to work. And I'm telling you, people who are on that boss's end that like to play with the words, they know what they're doing, because people are getting smart enough to do what I just said all on their own. It's amazing. And as a result, those people like that boss who dance with the words and weave and basically deceive, it really is manipulation. That person they get irritated now because they were smart. They're smart enough to realize they got me. I have no other trick up my sleeve. I'm a one-show pony. And so what they do is now they get frustrated, and you can tell they get irritated because you got them in a corner. This is where most people will back off, because most people who are having to put someone in a position like this for these reasons, they genuinely are not used to wielding power against someone. And it gives them empathy kicks in, or feeling sorry for someone and trying to understand. No. They're at your mercy. Get what you want, and then be sympathetic. Be empathetic. Nowadays, though, most bosses will just tell you, well, go pound rocks, and they'll turn around and they'll talk about nobody wants to work. Well, nobody wants to pay people enough to work. People ain't about to give you nothing for free, boy. Same ones who do that be talking about the price is non-negotiable. They know what they're doing. They're out for themselves. You're not part of that equation. You're not part of their equation to success. You're just part of you're like a tool to them, right? So the person, so you say, so the people, they get irritated when you try and put them in a corner. Like the people we bought this place from, business people at their core. Well, before we got everything finally ironed out, we tried to get them to put things on paper. We tried to iron out all the details with them. And they just would not have it. And the funny thing is, they've sold property to people before and everything, and they know about how important paperwork is and getting things in writing. And we know, because they put paper in front of everybody they do business with and get them to sign plans and contracts and everything else. So they knew this was not these are not handshake people. They do not do everything by handshake. And I had to hold their